What's going on, my beat builders? It's a great day to be alive. Now, you may be wondering, where do I set my levels for music for sync licensing? Well, that all depends on what kind of music it is and where it's going to. Sometimes they might actually tell you where they want their levels set, but I'm going to show you how I set my levels for the music that gets placed and that goes to music production library. So this is the level I've always set it at, and it seems it gets placement, so it's a good level. Let's take a look. So here's a track called You Got Me Twisted. I got my little scope, my multimeter. Let's play it. Now, if you look at it, it's not jumping real high. So this right here, this is the mix stage. So this is where I mixed it down and it's gonna get ready to be mastered. So if you look at here over at the RMS, it's pretty low. It's not even close to zero, right? So when you're doing your mixing, it doesn't have to be that loud. You can make it louder in the mastering stage. So now we're about to get to the chorus. And even in the chorus, it 24 RMS, peak about -9. So it's not that loud, right? You can look at the graph and tell the kick, the bass, it is the loudest parts in the song, but it's really not that loud. So if we jump over to, let me close this out and jump to the master. Here's the track in the mastering phase. So let's play the track. Let's look at the multimeter. So now you can see things are actually louder. Now, if we just do RMS, it's at -11, peak is at -2. So it is a little louder, but it's still not heavily compressed. If you look at it, it's still some dynamics to this track. Let's get to the chorus where it's the loudest. And at the loudest, it's about -11. So usually when I'm mixing or when I'm mastering the track, I usually try to keep it around -10, -11 RMS. And this is just a Logic stock multimeter. So you can tell it's not passing zero. And the reason why it's not passing zero too, I do have a limiter, which if you look at the limiter, I've gained it up crazy, right? 14 dB a gain. So that limiter is stopping it from going over zero, but that's where I roughly keep my levels. Now, if it's a different track, let's say it's not hip hop, say it's a drama suspense type track where it's going to be quiet anyway in the final product, you know, a drama scene where it's just one note cue and it's real low, I would probably have that at half of the loudness because it doesn't need to be loud, right? It doesn't need to be in your face. So trying to master it all the way up to zero, there's no point in doing it. I keep the dynamics in there so it can be dynamic, and then it just saves time, right? If I don't have to do all this, like you see, this is using my mastering chain. So these are already in a template over here. So I just turn them on and tweak them a little bit. But when I'm doing something that's not hip hop, like drama, tension type cues, I sometimes just turn them on. I don't even do anything to it because in the mixing stage, I've already made it kind of loud enough. And like I said, those kind of cues don't need to be as loud. Now, you still need to make them so they can be heard. And I have had tracks where the music library said, hey, can you make this a little bit louder? And of course, I just go back and make it a little bit louder. But if they do need to make it louder, they can do that on their end. But that's how I treat the difference between like hip hop music and something that's already quiet. It doesn't need to be loud. So keep that in mind when you're making your track for sync licensing. You want them to be loud, but they don't have to be loud. If you think about music for the radio and they compete on the loudness wars, that's a different story. They're trying to make stuff as loud as possible for the radio to compete. But in TV and film, you really don't need to because they're going to compress it anyway, when it goes to the TV stations and hearing it through your computer, your headphones, it's going to change the signal anyway. So it's not going to be as loud as it needs to be. Now, if you're making music for theatrical releases, that's a whole different story. You probably need to be in a real studio, having someone else mix, having someone else master your track, because that's just on a different level, right? You're going to be in the movie theater, you want to hear it loud. You want to hear it just crash in your face. So that's a whole different level where levels need to be. But for TV and film, I've been doing this same strategy for like a long time, and it's worked. So I would say this is a good level to do it at. I don't know. You can test it out with your own theories, or you can maybe just ask the music library, hey, what level should I send the music in? Because they might have different standards of what level your music needs to be, and that could be a reason why you may not get a placement. Your music may be too loud, right? You think you're competing for the radio, it's too loud, but they don't tell you to turn it down. So you may can just ask them, hey, where do you need me to set? Where should my peaks be? Where should my RMS be? So it can be a nice broadcast standard for when it plays on television. So I hope this helps you get an understanding of what your levels could be or what they around should be. Don't take this just a standard. You have to do it at -10 or whatever. Just play around with different things, get feedback from your library, ask other people who in libraries what they have their mixes at, and then you'll get a little deviation in where you can set your level. So that way you don't have to fret that much that everything needs to be at the same volume. You can have dynamics in your music. So let me know in the comments if this video was helpful, and if you're a veteran in this, where do you set your levels on your music? I want to know. I want to be curious, because I only have my experience. It's worked for me, but I want to know what's worked for you as well if you're a veteran to the sync license game. So take it easy. Peace.